Well, the sickening video of former Baltimore Ravens starter Ray Rice punching out his then-girlfriend and now wife, not the first infamous case of domestic violence involving a star athlete. Former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson's abusive marriage to actress Robin Givens was made public when they were interviewed by Barbara Walters.
Does he hit you?
He shakes, he pushes, he swings. Sometimes I think he's trying to scare me. There are times when, or there were times when it happened when I thought I could handle it, you know. And just recently I've become afraid. I mean, very, very much afraid.
I understand why. Well, I had a chance to speak to Robin Givens earlier. Robin, you wrote very eloquently about your own experience during your marriage to Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. It was in Time magazine this week. Mm-hmm. And I felt that you were very candid. And one of the things that you talked about that you didn't feel you could tell anybody, that you just couldn't go out there and say, this guy, this very powerful man hit me and he hurt me. Why couldn't you say that?
Governor, I have to say, one of the things that I've learned over the years, it's been some 20-odd years, what's amazing for me is even having this conversation with you is, I have to admit, a little difficult for me because it does bring back memories and it brings back hurt and it brings back pain. And one of the reasons that I've started talking when this latest situation happened was really when my son came to me. My son, who will be 21 in October, my eldest son, and he told me, you have to speak out. I realized that I've spent 20-some-odd years talking to women, sitting with them, visiting with them, sitting in shelters. I've sat with women that don't speak English with their babies on their laps, and we didn't speak the same language, and still we had the same story. I've found that I always say, because I've discovered my story is your story is my story. It's amazing to me the details that I've heard from different women about the similarities about what has happened to them. So what we saw in the elevator happened to me, only I was in an apartment building and I wasn't carried away by my husband. I came to and I was being carried out by a doorman over his shoulder. But other women have had those same details. If I remember having my throat held, being choked, I've had other women have those same details. So I think that's the thing that is still sort of mind-boggling to me.
Just hearing you tell that, I mean, it's painful to hear. And I just can't imagine that a man, it goes so against everything I've ever been taught about respecting women, protecting women. What do you think it is that some men just get violent and do what I think most all of us would agree is the unspeakable horror to a woman?
I don't know. You know, somebody recently told me that hurt people hurt people. I've spent those years that I talked about not only talking to women, but talking to them to try to understand my own pain and to try to understand how I ended up in the situation that I did, sort of do my own sort of self-investigating, if you will. I know that I can't speak about why somebody does that. I have 2 sons. I want nothing more. I'm a single mom. I've given 5,000% because I want to give the world 2 good husbands and fathers responsible that do what you say, respect women and protect them and cherish them. And I always think a gentleman is exactly that, gentle. So I can't speak on behalf of those men. I can speak on behalf of the women who, as I've said, feel a very similar thing, which you talked about with me. You feel such embarrassment. I mean, the first thing you feel is embarrassment. You feel like you can't tell anyone. It's hard to tell yourself. And I think what I find so powerful about what we saw in the elevator is that a lot of what the women I've spoken to, a lot of what I've experienced is that people don't believe you. So on top of the pain of having this happen to you, you now are dealing with a different sort of pain as you are trying to process all of these emotions because it is somebody that you love. But now we have the video. I think it's difficult for people to wrap their mind around somebody, a man balling up his fist and actually hitting a woman. But with this video, it's inescapable. We have to have this discussion. We have to be able to say, this is unacceptable, collectively as a society. Not just women speaking up, but also men getting involved in this conversation. To say this, under every single circumstance, should not be tolerated. It should not happen.
The NFL was a little late coming to the conclusion that this was serious enough to invoke a permanent suspension. Do you think it was because he didn't see the tape before? Is that what it was? Or is it just, are we that protective of sports figures that we want to just look the other way and let them get away with stuff like this?
No one wants to believe that this is possible. We really don't want to believe that somebody could do that. Maybe one of our heroes, somebody that's very good at doing a particular thing that entertains us and excites us and exhilarates us, now is doing something that is so deeply upsetting to us. I think part of us doesn't, if we would do everything we possibly could to push it away so we don't have to deal with it. And once again, the tape forces us to have the conversation. I don't know why they were late sort of coming to the conclusion that they came to, but I'm so deeply grateful that they did come to the conclusion that they came to.
Well, Robin, I'm deeply grateful that you were willing to speak out and be so candid and so bold, because I think that your story and the perspective that you have is going to be very helpful and encouraging and hopefully instructive to many women and, frankly, to men all over America. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Governor.